Obviously, anything can happen in the market, so don't take the fact that I think that we could pull back as any type of advice or anything like that. I'm simply just looking at the price action within this wedge, and it's coiling very tightly, and definitely something to keep in mind, the fact that we've closed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks in a row. So that is not normal, at least without some type of a short-term pullback to kind of reset price.
This is the How to Trade Stocks and Options podcast, brought to you by 10MinuteStockTrader.com, where we cover finance, stocks, options, entrepreneurship, education, and money. And here's your host, voted one of the top 100 people in finance, Christopher Ewell. Today's episode is produced in partnership with TrendSpider. Get scanning, charts, backtesting, and alerts all in one place with TrendSpider. Go to trendspider.10MinuteStockTrader.com to get an exclusive discount code and bonuses worth over $100 when you take your free trial at trendspider.10MinuteStockTrader.com. Hey, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you'll be notified every time we give you more tools, tips, and tricks to help you trade faster and trade smarter every single week.
Hey, Jake here with TrendSpider to go over some charts into the week ahead using the TrendSpider technical analysis platform. We do have a 7-day free trial if you'd like to give it a shot before you buy. And there's a lot of different things you can use on the platform. But today, we're really just going to be going over the broad markets as well as a few different charts into the week ahead. Remember, next week is a short week. So Friday, obviously, is Christmas. So we're not trading on Christmas. So it is a 4-day week going into the last couple weeks of the year. So moving on to the broad markets, SPY, you can see here on the daily chart, we really on Friday had a decent move down but bounced up into the second half of the day. You can see here I've created an anchored VWAP from this breakout point here from early November, and you can see how well prices respected this area. And then the anchored VWAP handoff approach is really put into play using the candle from November 19th to act as a handoff point. You can see how well prices respected this VWAP as well going into December. Now, on the weekly side of things, we do have quite the ascending wedge forming. We are trying to get through this resistance line, but it's just taking quite a few weeks to do so. And we'll have to see if a Santa Claus rally actually does come to fruition, or we're just not going to get that in 2020. Going into the Qs, you can see here that we did break out of this ascending triangle here, and you can see that we pretty much just tested that previous breakout point. Generally, if you're breaking out of a particular level of resistance, you're going to retest that point before moving higher. So will that be the case? Let's see going into next week. But on the weekly side of things, it was a pretty strong week here, and you can see that we did break out through new highs, hitting new highs into the last part of 2020. And if we did continue up, this 1.618 extension would be an area to watch above. Going into IWM, we have a huge ascending wedge here that is just getting tighter and tighter as the days go by. We're getting very close to the apex here, and I don't know. We'll just have to see what happens, but that is getting very tight for a potential move down. The reason I say move down is simply because we just seem to be melting up at this point. If you look at the weekly chart, this is not sustainable by any means at all. At least in the short term. In the long term, it would be healthy to get a pullback and then a continuation up. But even if we move down to the 168 area, everybody's going to be panicking, but then we'll forget that we were just there in early November. So keep that in mind when looking at this chart. We are pretty overextended. Obviously, anything can happen in the market, so don't take the fact that I think that we could pull back as any type of advice or anything like that. I'm simply just looking at the price action within this wedge, and it's coiling very tightly, and definitely something to keep in mind, the fact that we've closed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks in a row. So that is not normal, at least without some type of a short-term pullback to kind of reset price. Going into the VIX, VIX is just kind of doing its thing here, just continuing to not fill the gap, which everybody's watching. And really the gap is the main thing you want to watch here, at least to the downside. But then if you look on the upside, we also have a gap above that is not filled as well. So keep that in mind when looking at VIX. There are gaps below and above moving into the new year. Now let's go into some individual stocks. Amazon is the first one that we'll go over. Amazon did have a symmetrical triangle breakout here, and we barely missed the retest of this previous resistance line. So let's see if we can actually just have a pretty clean pullback, retest, and continuation up. The weekly chart suggests that things are definitely getting very coiled here. If we anchor the volume by price from this March low, you'll see here that this massive volume shelf is forming. And it's not shocking that we had a little bit of a pullback where we did this week, because this is almost exactly where this weekly resistance line was in the symmetrical triangle. So this is a launch pad possibly for price. However, remember, these volume shelves essentially are just telling us where a majority of shares are breaking even, or essentially where they're holding. So if the price is pretty much at the volume shelf, that means a majority of the shares, especially here, are break even from the March low. So we're getting close to the apex of the symmetrical triangle, and we're definitely going to have a big move soon just for price to kind of unwind here. Going into the next chart, we'll look at PLTR. PLTR is definitely one that a lot of people thought was just going to explode on Friday, and we kind of got the opposite. We are still hanging on to this anchored VWAP handoff here that's been acting as a level of interest over the last week or two. And then on the weekly side of things, you can see that we're in this pennant forming, and we'll just have to see which way price unwinds. But all in all, this thing is up a ton over the last 2 months, and that is something to keep in mind when looking at the price action here. Going into Tesla. Tesla is one that, oh, wow. I'm just going to say wow. I mean, that's about all I can say. Friday's price action was pretty mind-blowing, to be completely honest. And if we do turn on the volume by price here, we can anchor it from this point here. And sometimes I get a question, where do you decide to anchor from? Well, in this case, if we have this ascending triangle, I want to anchor from the start of the ascending triangle. So essentially, we're seeing what the volume profile is of the ascending triangle. So in this case, we had this volume shelf here. This did act as a slight launch pad for price, but then price pulled back and then absolutely ripped into the close. So just a weird day of price action for Tesla. But going into the weekly side of things, you can see here that we did really start to move through this 1.618 extension, and then the 2.618 extension is above. The measured move is simply from this August 31st move all the way down to September, and then from there, that's our measured move that we're basing those extensions off of. Going into NEO, NEO is one that's been quite interesting as well. We've had an anchored VWAP pinch forming here, and what I've done is I've essentially anchored the VWAPs from this pivot before we broke out of this horizontal resistance, and then I anchored another VWAP from when we finally broke out, and you can see how well the price action has been respecting these two VWAPs. And notice I'm using more of a zone when I'm looking at levels, not just one precise point. Same thing with the horizontal level, it's a zone, it's not just one line, and same thing with the anchored VWAPs. Now if we look at the weekly side of things, you can see here that we do have quite a volume shelf forming if we anchor from this breakout candle here. So let's turn off the volume by price on the daily and focus on the weekly. And you'll see here that this volume shelf is also an area where price was able to catch a little bit of a bid, or simply people stopped selling because they didn't have any profit left to sell. So the volume shelf is at it once again. And speaking of volume shelves, we'll go to GRWG and look at a case study from mid-October. And you'll see something very interesting. On the daily, we are starting to break out. Once again, we hit a new high on Friday today. Today is Friday when I did the video. But going into next week, the 1.618 extension would be the natural area to look for possibly, I don't want to say a pullback, but just the next target above for a lot of people who trade Fibonacci levels. The thing about Fib levels is they sometimes become self-fulfilling just because so many people are watching these levels. Now, if we anchor the volume by price from the March low on GRWG, you'll see here that, I mean, this volume shelf was really here in mid-October. And this is something we were talking about in mid-October, just this massive shelf forming, and price action has really just blasted off through this area. And so thinking back and looking at NEO, is this going to be the same type of thing we see going into the weeks ahead, into the months ahead? We'll have to see. Nobody has a crystal ball, but we can look at different examples in the past and apply them to the same setups on different stocks. So hopefully this video was helpful. Hopefully everybody has a great weekend. Remember, next week the holiday does fall on a Friday, so it's only a 4-day trading week. If you guys have any questions at all, definitely let us know. If you are a customer, we sincerely thank you for becoming a customer in 2020. You guys are the ones that have made this year so great for the team at TrendSpider, and we can't wait to show you guys what we have in store for 2021. And for those that have not signed up yet, we do have that 7-day free trial that I mentioned. So if you are interested, definitely let us know. If you have any questions, hello@trendspider.com, or our Twitter DMs are open if you have any questions about the platform at all. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Hopefully everybody has a safe and great weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Okay, so what'd you think? That was pretty incredible, right? Now, if you like that, that's only a taste, only a sample of what you're going to find in the full AI stock trading system. And I really highly encourage you to go and check this out. Obviously, you are interested in learning on how to trade, and that's why you're listening to this podcast. Now, I'm going to take and download my entire trading system that I use day in and day out onto you. And the only way I'm going to be able to do that is over at the AIStockTradingSystem.com. You're going to get phase 1, 2, and 3, several bonuses, and on top of that, I'm going to walk you through over a dozen trades that I put on inside of my account, holding your hand and showing you exactly how I got in, how I got out, how I use the artificial intelligence data, and how this could work inside of your own trading portfolio on a daily basis. So make sure you head on over to AIStockTradingSystem.com. That's AIStockTradingSystem.com to learn more and to get started and to download my decade plus worth of trading experience into your hands so you can start using the AI stock trading system today, the 5-step system to take the guesswork out of trading. Hey, if you like this video, let me know by leaving me a like below, and then subscribe and share it with somebody you think could use it as well. Be sure to comment below with your biggest takeaway from this episode and any suggestions you have for future episodes. And finally, make sure you watch these other videos to help you trade faster and trade smarter, and I'll see you on the next episode.